After several attempts to soothe her child, who had been crying incessantly for days, this desperate mother decided to check the diaper. She expected a routine change, but what she saw left her shocked for life. Before we move on with today's story, let us know where you're listening from. When Emily Johnson was about to start the laundry, a piercing cry made her freeze in her tracks. The plaintive sound, full of desperate pleas for attention, echoed throughout their home. It was her 5-month-old daughter, Grace, who had only been put to sleep a few minutes earlier. Exhausted, Emily sighed. Her little girl had been crying continuously for some time. The young mother, who worked as a nurse, noticed that it had started about 3 days earlier. That night, baby Grace cried so hard that she and her husband, David Johnson, could barely get any sleep. The next day, the baby continued to cry, pausing only briefly for feeding and sleep. When the crying persisted throughout the day, the concerned parents sought medical help for a thorough examination. Unfortunately, the doctor didn't find any health problems and attributed Grace's discomfort to the typical effects of teething. The doctor recommended a few basic massage techniques as well as medication for the baby, and he sent Emily and David on their way, with assurances that the constant crying would eventually subside. His words brought the parents a wave of relief, and they returned home hoping for a slight improvement in Grace's mood, carefully administering the medicine at the prescribed times. However, as time went on, Emily and David found no relief or comfort. The crying did not subside. In fact, it grew even more intense. Soon, the doctor's reassurances sparked uncertainty and doubt in their minds. They feared that there was something more behind their child's distress than met the eye. Little did they know that this seed of doubt would soon lead them to confront something completely shocking and disturbing. The sight of their little daughter in constant pain evoked distant memories for Emily and David. The couple had only been married for a year and had eagerly anticipated starting a new family. The newlyweds were overjoyed, envisioning a bright future with their little princess. However, a few weeks before Grace's birth, their dream encountered an unforeseen problem. Just as Emily was entering her final trimester, Grace was born prematurely, a complete surprise, since she was supposed to deliver only 5 weeks later. Although the unexpected arrival caught them off guard, they were thrilled to welcome their daughter. Still, concerns about the consequences of a premature birth persisted. As they had suspected, the doctor informed them that the baby had a weak immune system, having been under observation for several days after her birth. He strictly advised Emily and David to be vigilant about their daughter's hygiene, warning that even a minor cold could harm her health. He also stressed the need to examine Grace regularly and emphasized that extra precautions were necessary during the first 6 months of her life. Now, watching their poor daughter cry day after day, alarm bells rang in the young parents' minds. A mother's intuition told Emily that her daughter was troubled by something else. On Monday morning, as Emily was getting Grace ready for another hospital visit, a routine checkup meant to calm her. She gave her daughter a warm bath and was about to put on a fresh diaper when she noticed something strange. On the fuzzy fabric of the diaper, a small brown spot stood out. Emily examined it closely, wondering how it had gotten there. Her little one hadn't even started wearing diapers like this before. So what was this stain and how had it appeared? As she continued to scrutinize the mysterious spot, she noticed other marks scattered across the diaper. Quickly, she drew David's attention to it, asking if he knew what these brown spots were. Together, they examined the strange substance, and many unsettling possibilities swirled in their minds. However, when the truth finally dawned on them, it hit like a ton of bricks. Their eyes widened in horror when they saw what they were about to dress their daughter in. Hidden in the soft fabric of Grace's diaper were tiny razor-sharp shards of rusty metal. Emily had hoped that this diaper was an isolated manufacturing error, but her heart sank when she discovered even more metal fragments in other diapers from the same large pack that Grace had been using. Devastated by the discovery, the grief-stricken mother burst into tears as she realized the implications of this terrible find. Grace had a weak immune system, and since her body had been exposed to these rusty, unsanitary pieces of metal, it was impossible to predict how her poor little daughter would react. Emily wondered how long Grace had been wearing these tainted diapers, and in that moment, a dreadful realization struck her. She remembered that her child's discomfort had begun as soon as she started using diapers from that very pack. They could never have imagined that a mistake by a trusted brand could jeopardize their child's health. After discovering the metal, Emily and David rushed their daughter to the hospital for an examination. Emily prayed fervently for her safety. Their doctor mentioned that Grace could have contracted sepsis from being exposed to an unclean environment, and judging by how frequently they had used the tainted pack of diapers, the poor mother feared the worst. She wondered how many of these diapers contained metal shards and why she hadn't noticed them all these days. A wave of self-reproach washed over Emily as she blamed herself for putting her daughter in such a dangerous situation. Fortunately, the concerned parents learned that Grace had sustained only minor injuries to her bottom. No immediate harm had been done, as there were no metal shards or other contaminants in her body. Although this was reassuring news, Emily still awaited the doctor's evaluation of any potential long-term health consequences for Grace. In the end, the doctor treated the 5-month-old girl, assuring her parents that she was not in danger of contracting any diseases. Emily sighed with enormous relief upon hearing this news. Yet once the initial shock had subsided, the young mother braced herself for something even more serious. The couple lodged a complaint with the diaper manufacturer. The horrifying ordeal that had befallen their daughter left a bitter taste in their mouths, and they demanded that the company launch an investigation to determine why the diapers they purchased contained metal shards. Emily and David took this bold step not to seek compensation, but to force transparency and accountability from the brand they had so trusted. They felt that they owed it to other parents. Any child could be at risk. Although their beautiful daughter had been fortunate to survive the incident, Emily believed that many other children might have been less lucky. As soon as news of the incident reached the company, a representative issued a public apology and stated that an investigation was underway to get to the bottom of the matter. In light of this investigation, the company refrained from making any substantive comments on the case. This somewhat restrained response was not what the young couple had expected. In a life-threatening situation, they believed the accused party should act quickly and sensitively, as the situation demanded. Moreover, even after the apology, David revealed that the company had contacted him to request the manufacturer code of the damaged products without any clear confirmation of the complaint. Dissatisfied with the sluggish response they had received from well-known agencies and retailers, Emily and David decided to take to the internet to emphasize how important it is for parents to be especially vigilant about the products they use for their children. Many people online sympathized with the troubled parents, expressing their shock over the incident. In one comment, Emily and David came across 2 other couples whose children had suffered from metal fragments in diapers from the same company just last week. The speed with which these strange incidents were occurring was alarming, and eventually it compelled the company to be held accountable. Over time, the story faded from the headlines. It remains unclear whether the Johnson and the other interested parties reached any settlements behind closed doors. However, the family's posts on social media show that they managed to overcome this ordeal. By choosing not to engage in prolonged legal battles, they demonstrated a remarkable ability to heal, forgive, and move on. In the end, all that mattered was the life of their precious daughter, and they managed to save her by promptly checking on that fateful day. What would you do if you were in Grace's parents' place? And what do you think of today's story? Please share your thoughts in the comments. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.